What do the rich buy that the poor don't even know is available for purchase? I once worked as a contractor for a tech billionaire who insisted on a solid 24-karat gold toilet in his master suite. We warned him that gold is an incredible conductor of heat, but he didn't care. He wanted the ultimate flex. The bathroom was designed with a massive south-facing skylight right above the toilet to give it a heavenly glow. In the summer, that skylight acted like a giant magnifying glass. By 2 p.m., the toilet would hit over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. He literally couldn't sit on his own $2 million throne without getting second-degree burns. That is peak rich person logic, spending millions on a gold toilet only to have it defeated by the sun. I heard he eventually had to pay another $50,000 just to install motorized blackout shades and a dedicated AC vent just for the toilet. You can literally rent A-list celebrities for private parties. We are talking about hiring a band to play a set. I mean hiring Hollywood actors to just hang out. One wealthy guy in Bel Air threw a Halloween party for his kid and hired Demi Moore and Benicio del Toro to just mingle and pretend to be family friends. The saddest part was seeing their faces. They were just standing there, exchanging glances that screamed, "I can't believe I'm doing this for a paycheck." Imagine being an Oscar-level talent forced to entertain toddlers on a lawn. The ultra-wealthy use advanced teams for travel. If the family is going on vacation, this team flies out days early. They measure the shelving in the hotel or rental house, then go out and buy the exact same toiletries, clothes, and items the family uses at home. They unpack and arrange everything perfectly. The family walks in with zero luggage, and their favorite toothpaste and robes are exactly where they expect them to be. It's like magic. They never touch a suitcase. Will Smith once talked about Oprah in an interview. He said she has been rich and famous for so long that she has forgotten how to do basic human tasks. She is so used to having assistants that he once saw Barack Obama bring her food because she was just sitting there waiting for the food to magically appear in front of her. A billionaire in Dubai wanted a white Christmas, but instead of going to a ski resort, he had 20 tons of real snow blasted onto his private beach in 110-degree heat. The snow melted in about 45 minutes, creating a giant salty slushy that killed all the expensive tropical plants in his garden. He just shrugged and paid $100,000 to have the entire garden replaced the next day. A fall guy for prison. This is a known phenomenon in parts of Latin America, but it probably happens elsewhere. If you are rich and you run someone over, you pay a poor person a huge sum to take the blame and serve the sentence for you. This is common with the Yakuza in Japan too. I knew a guy who did 8 years for his boss. He came out a wealthy man with a guaranteed pension and position within the clan. I worked at a Michelin star spot in London. The ultra wealthy don't just book a table, they buy the void. We had a regular who paid the buyout price for the table next to him every single time he dined. He didn't want the table, he wanted the absence of people. He paid roughly $2,000 a night just so he wouldn't have to hear another human being breathe while he ate his risotto. To him, the most expensive thing on the menu wasn't the truffles, it was the silence of the middle class being kept 10 feet away. I knew a guy who bought a Jaguar and paid to have it stretched just enough to legally classify as a limousine. Why? Because in a limousine, passengers are legally allowed to drink alcohol on the back seat. He hired a driver and commuted to work every day sipping whiskey legally. In certain circles, this is just a standard expense like car insurance. It's called K&R, kidnap and ransom insurance. If you or your child gets snatched, the insurance company doesn't just pay the ransom. They deploy a private team of negotiators and ex-special forces to extract you. People think the rich care about their followers. The truly rich care about being invisible. There is a service called a digital eraser that costs about $100,000 a year. They don't just delete your Instagram. They have legal teams and hackers who scrub your name from every flight manifest, every leaked database, and every paparazzi archive on the deep web. I worked for a guy who used this. If you Google his name, the only thing that comes up is a fake profile of a generic businessman in a different country. He can walk through an airport or sit in a restaurant, and even the most dedicated private investigator couldn't find a digital footprint of him being there. What do the rich buy? The weather. I'm not kidding. If you're throwing a $10 million outdoor wedding in a place where it might rain, you don't buy umbrellas, you buy cloud seeding. I was a coordinator for a wedding in the Hamptons. The forecast called for a massive storm. The father of the bride paid a private aviation firm to fly planes upwind of the estate and spray silver iodide into the clouds. It forces the clouds to dump all their rain 20 miles away before they reach the party. The guests were sipping champagne in the sun, while 20 miles west, the town was getting getting hit by a literal deluge. They spent $150,000 to move a storm. The financial tools available to the ultra-rich are things we can't even imagine. Imagine going to a horse race and being allowed to place your bet after the race has almost finished. That is basically how closed investment funds work. They get information and access that is legally impossible for normal people to get. I installed a system for a woman who was so obsessed with purity that she didn't want the air in her penthouse to be from the city. We built a proprietary filtration system that used medical-grade scrubbers, but that wasn't enough. She paid a company to ship compressed mountain air from Switzerland in massive canisters that were fed into her ventilation system. She's literally breathing 19th century Alps air while living in the middle of a smoggy concrete jungle. She spent more on air in a month than most people spend on rent in a year. I saw a guy spend $150,000 to move a 60-foot cedar tree from a forest across the state to his backyard because his wife wanted a mature look for their pool party that weekend. Moving a tree that big is a mechanical nightmare. It requires a specialized crane and a police escort. Halfway through the party, she decided she didn't like the shadow it cast on the lounge chairs. She had us cut it down and mulch it the very next morning. A 100-year-old living thing killed for a 4-hour vibe. That is the most main character syndrome thing I've ever heard. I worked on a 200-foot yacht where the owner was obsessed with the perfect sunset. We would spend hours calculating the exact GPS coordinates where the sun would hit the horizon without any clouds or other boats in the way. If another boat entered his view, he'd have the captain radio them and offer them $5,000 just to move their boat a mile to the left. Most people took the money. He literally paid for the exclusive rights to a sunset that belongs to everyone. I worked for a family that had a full-time live-in nanny just for the dog. The dog had its own bedroom, a chef who prepared fresh organic salmon every day, and a therapist who visited twice a week to deal with the dog's anxiety. The nanny's only job was to make sure the dog's paws never touched unclean grass. If the dog needed to go outside, the nanny had to lay down a fresh silk runner. They spent $60,000 a year on a dog's ego. 3 years ago, I was hired to install a massive Faraday cage in the walls of a tech billionaire's estate. Most people value high-speed Wi-Fi, but this guy paid $300,000 to ensure that not a single cell signal, radio wave, or internet connection could enter his master suite. He didn't want to rely on Do Not Disturb mode. He wanted it to be physically impossible for the world to reach him. He spent a fortune to live in a dead zone so he could sleep without the vibration of the modern world. He literally bought a room where the 21st century doesn't exist. I was part of a vibe crew for a billionaire's son who was painfully awkward. He'd go to the most exclusive clubs in Vegas or Ibiza, and we'd be there 30 minutes before him. Our job was to warm up the VIP section. We'd buy drinks for everyone, get the music right, and make it look like the most insane party on earth. When he walked in, he'd join the fun, and we'd treat him like the coolest guy in the room. He spent $20,000 a night to live in a movie where he was the star, never realizing that every friend he made was actually on my payroll.